He had his dream job, a huge salary, and a separate cabin. But what do you do when your entire career vanishes overnight? How far can pride carry you when the bills keep coming and the phone stops ringing? And when your fancy title disappears, who are you without it? This is the story of Bobby Walker, a man who thought he had it all until a company shakeup pulled the rug out from under him. As he fights to rebuild not just his career, but his identity, he's forced to face a brutal truth. Success is fragile, and survival isn't always about resumes or suits. Sometimes it's about learning how to start over. Bobby Walker arrives at GTX, a shipbuilding company that also deals in transportation technology. His assistant, Nan, follows him and informs him that Sally Wilcox is waiting in the conference room. But before going to see her, Bobby heads to the staff room. Everyone inside looks miserable. Bobby, confused and seeking answers, asks what's going on, but is met with silence. No one responds. Refusing to be left in the dark, he heads straight to Connell's office to get the truth. Connell informs him that the company has shut down its mobile phone division in Newport News. He also mentions that GTX has merged the ship systems with the rail products division, a corporate way of saying massive layoffs are happening under the cover of innovation. There, he also meets Dick Landry from the legal department. Landry broke the news that Bobby was being laid off. He is offered 12 weeks of full pay and benefits as a modest return for his 12 years of loyal service. Bobby, who was completely caught off guard, looked at them and asked if he was being fired. Sally quickly steps in, trying to make the moment feel a little less harsh. She explains that they'll help him find another job through a support program, but it doesn't really make him feel any better. Bobby refuses to sit down. He storms out of the room, stunned. We then meet Phil and Jean. Jean asks what's going on. Phil answers with a heavy tone that Sally had just let go of some folks from the ship systems sales team. Jean looked confused, clearly unaware of what was going on. Phil says he's been laying low in his office all day. Sally hasn't let him go yet, but he knows it's only a matter of time. Phil sighed, saying that 30 years of loyalty had vanished in just 30 seconds.
She fired goddamn everybody.
Later, at Bobby's house, his wife, Maggie, walks in and sees him making dinner. She asks why he was home so early. He brushes it off, not giving a clear answer. She reminds him that they're supposed to go to Maggie's brother's house, Jack, that evening, but Bobby doesn't want to go, and tension builds. Maggie, who got frustrated, talked about Jean, and that's when Bobby finally tells her the truth, that he was fired today. Maggie was shocked as well as upset upon hearing the news.
They fired me.
She reminds him of his promise to make sure Jean would have his back, but Jean wasn't even at the office when it happened. Bobby said it was funny how "we're in this together" quickly turned into "sorry, there's nothing I can do." Bobby's feeling the weight of the news. He's been quiet most of the day, but after some nudging from Maggie, he finally agrees to go to Jack's place. Jack greets him with a playful jab about his job break, and someone at the party lightens the mood with a margarita joke. But beneath the laughter, Bobby was worrying about his job status. The next day, during an event, Gene steps up to introduce GTX's CEO, James Salinger. He praises James for turning the company into a powerhouse. James takes the mic and thanks Gene in return. The crowd applauds. But Bobby watches from the sidelines, thinking, you don't build a company like this by handing out pink slips by the thousands. Bobby then goes for the job placement training. Danny, another laid-off worker, welcomes him. A woman speaks to the group, reassuring them that it's normal to feel afraid and anxious.
I will win.
At GTX, Gene met with the team to discuss the recent merger. Phil and Nan walked in as frustration filled the room. People complained about the same work being done with fewer hands. Phil stepped in, trying to lift spirits and keep the team focused. A bit later, Bobby searched for a place to sit. Danny, noticing him, welcomed him over. While others kept their distance, Danny wasn't bothered. He shared that he had 9 months of severance and had already used up 4. On the other hand, at the company, Gene tries to justify the layoffs. He said Mr. Salinger, the CEO, was under pressure to boost stock prices. Gene even calls in some favors to help Bobby find a job. Bobby, who was angry, threw down the paper and left. "I'll steal them once I'm with the competitors," he said.
Salinger's under a lot of pressure to boost the stock price.
Bobby told Maggie that Gene was trying to help him find a position. She appreciated it, but reminded him that bills were stacking up. Also, she suggested starting to look for any kind of job. Over drinks at GTX, Gene and James, the GTX CEO, shared memories of their time at the company. James invited Gene and his wife to Sun Valley for New Year's. Gene declined the request because he was not really in a state to go to a party. Bobby, on the other hand, started to go for interviews, but the offer was a steep drop, $65,000 instead of his old $120,000. He insisted that he was still VP material, but the interviewer disagreed.
Well, our base salary is $65,000 a year.
I'm a highly qualified applicant for that position.
Bobby kept calling marketing firms, but the rejections piled up. Later, he opened up to his son, Drew, and admitted that he lost his job. Drew didn't say much, but his quiet support spoke volumes.
I lost my job.
At Thanksgiving dinner at Jack's, Bobby dodged questions about work. Carson said a prayer, asking God to help Bobby find a job, exposing the fact that he had lost his job to everyone.
Please help my dad find a job, so he won't be unhappy all the time.
After dinner, Jack offered him a spot at his construction firm, but Bobby turned it down. Back at GTX, Gene pushed back on how the layoffs were happening, but his concerns were ignored. That night, Bobby and Maggie argued again. She suggested lowering the price of their house. He refused and still didn't want to work for Jack. Money troubles kept growing. Bobby got kicked out of his golf club for missed payments. Maggie told him it was time to let it go and focus on paying bills. Eventually, Bobby broke down. At 37, he couldn't support his family. Maggie held him, trying to give him strength.
I'm trying to get a job. I'm a 37-year-old unemployed loser.
There was a short burst of hope when a recruiter mentioned a $90K position, but it fell through.
Willing to work for $90 a year, plus commission and bonus?
He sold his car to cover expenses, watching it drive away from the driveway. At a party, Phil quietly told Gene he had been fired too. Later, Gene confronted Sally and was handed his own termination letter.
Sally Wilcox just fired me.
Later, Drew asked Bobby to drive him to a friend's house, but Bobby refused. That's when Maggie reveals that Drew had sold his Xbox, trying to help in his own way. That's a tough pill to swallow. Desperate, Bobby finally accepted his brother-in-law's job offer. The physical work was tough, but he slowly adapted. When his hands blistered, a coworker gave him a used pair of gloves, which was an unspoken reminder of humility. Phil keeps searching for work, waiting in long lines, while Bobby got his first paycheck. Jack added a small bonus, recognizing his effort. With finances tight, Bobby and his family moved in with his parents. He checked on Drew, now sharing a room with his sister, and quietly took in how much their life had changed. Phil had been going to bars during the day so that neighbors wouldn't realize he was out of a job. After battling depression, he sadly ended his life. At the funeral, Bobby and Gene stood quietly, not saying much. Later, they visited the empty GTX office, a quiet place that reminded them of everything they had worked for and lost. Bobby admitted his mistakes to Maggie, and she stood by him, offering quiet support.
Let you down.
Around the same time, Gene confronted James about not showing up to Phil's funeral, but James brushed it off as just part of the business. In time, Gene decided to start fresh and opened his own firm. He invited Bobby to join him. Bobby mentioned it to Jack, who encouraged him to take the opportunity.
You should take that job.
Gene officially launched MLR Maritime Associates. When Sally stopped by to offer congratulations and subtly ask for a position, he politely turned her down and focused on the future. With a new team around him, Gene began his next chapter, this time with a clearer view of what truly mattered. Bobby also found a new sense of purpose, not from a job title, but from slowly rebuilding his life with meaning. The Company Men is a raw portrayal of job loss, personal transformation, and resilience. It reminds us that who we are isn't defined by a title or paycheck, but by how we rise after the fall.